I just want you to start expanding your mind and thinking about using the tool of podcasting totally bigger than long form interviews with cool people. That is still awesome, but it's been done a lot.
Welcome to this episode of Think Like a Producer. Today we're going to talk about alternative ways to use podcasting and YouTube besides long run shows. So a lot of the main podcasts, you'll have an hour, 90-minute, sometimes 2 hours plus shows. And when we get new clients, a lot of people are like, I don't really want to or possibly have the resources to record these long movie length shows and post them on YouTube. Is there something else that I can do? And so this was almost like my whole job for the last 5 or 6 years, is coming up with content and marketing that was separate from the long 90-minute, 2-hour long show. And when you're thinking about this in the pre-production process, this is everything you're doing before you're recording. You want to just think about, what do you enjoy doing and what do you enjoy consuming? Because I find that when clients ask me, like, what should I do? What are people watching? What's going to really get the most views and different things? There's no answer for that. Really, to me, it's whatever you love to consume and you really like, you're going to enjoy doing as well. So if you love to watch vlog channels, and, as things are getting safer, people hopefully are, being safe and traveling a little bit more right now. Travel vlogs, sometimes people will do things where they are just doing like staycation type stuff. Wherever my city is, I'm going to explore it a little bit more and show a little bit more. Or I'm building my home office. I committed to working at home and doing my podcast or my show at home, or creating media and content at home. And I'm going to show you how I do that. I'm going to show you the behind the scenes of me building this, why I decided to do it, the concepts that I'm going with. You can go on and on. So when I get that question, what should I do? What's going to be the most, really, it's what do you love to consume? What do you like? What's going to bring you the most joy? If you're not going to show the entire show that you're doing, you're not going to have the entire long podcast up. There's so many different ways that you can get people to watch and to get to know you as a person, especially if you're deciding to be the host of a show. It could be a solo kind of podcast. It could be an interview kind of podcast. It could be educational. It could be a group of people talking at a round table. But I'm sure Christine would agree, the more that people know the main person or people in the show, the better the show does overall. Because at the end of the day, there's not too many original concepts anymore, but you as a person, no one can ever duplicate. No one can be you. No one can live the life that you've lived. So you are what makes this unique. So as you're coming up with these ideas, I'm going to do some YouTube shorts maybe. I'm going to have 60-second videos of me trying out new cameras for my show as I'm building it up, or doing some audio tests, or I'm teaching myself how to edit. And here's one thing I learned on Adobe Audition today for 60 seconds, in case you're learning how to edit your podcast too. You can show that kind of process. I talk more in technical terms because that's mostly what I'm doing, is editing and doing the technical side of this, but you can kind of think outside of the box. But really, if you make yourself your own study and focus group, what do you consume on a regular basis? What do you actually take the time out to comment on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube? If you're that kind of person that just consumes all the time, but you don't like or comment, what actually made you stop in your tracks and like and comment, and why? What did it bring out of you? What emotion did it strike? All these things is what I talk to clients about in our we call it clarity calls, when they're getting ready to do their show and start to create their content. Because I tell them, like I said, kind of 3 times already, whatever you love, that's what you're going to want to create, and it's what's going to bring you the most joy as you do it week after week. But that's really mainly on the YouTube kind of Instagram side. There is a world where your full podcast does not need to be recorded on video. If you're choosing to just let the audio be there, and you can kind of create what we talked about in season 1, your personal brand. There's other places that people can find you and get to know you as a person. And then, oh, you have a podcast too? I'd love to sit down and listen to you for an hour. So you don't have to feel that pressure of posting your full podcast on YouTube, or even some people are doing 30-minute IGTVs or longer, or doing some Instagram lives where they're interviewing guests. This is a good time for you to test. If that's something you are interested in, if you find yourself watching 30-minute live videos or hour-long live videos on Instagram while someone else is interviewing someone live, maybe that's something you would like to do too. If that's something you consume. But if you're like, I never watch live videos, there's a good chance you may not actually enjoy doing hour-long live videos. So again, it's good to know what the marketing world is doing. It's good to know what trends are happening, but it's also good to know what you like and try to duplicate that during your production process. But that's for me on the video side. Christine, what are some other alternatives that people can do besides kind of posting their entire show?
Yes, I love thinking outside of the traditional ways people have podcasted because most people are actually well suited to doing something different than a long form conversation. We've talked about this on the last couple of episodes, but now I'm going to really get specific about how people are using podcasting specifically to do a whole bunch of different stuff in their brands that have like almost nothing to do with the traditional style. So really good examples are seasonal shows. You could have a 5-episode season that you drop twice a year. And those 5 episodes could be like beautifully produced. Maybe you record them all at once. You know, everybody's speaking on the same theme, or you're coaching on the same thing, or you do, one of the first podcasts that blew open the podosphere to the public was Serial, right? It was like an old radio style type serial show where you were following a journalist uncovering a story. So like every episode, I mean, that's still a very powerful way to use podcasting, and you could do that within your brand. Like you don't have to be a journalist following an old murder trial to use that kind of podcast. So seasonal shows are huge. I talk to everyone about them because they're actually really effective and they make production way more manageable on your budget, your time, your energy. Also, something I'm really excited about lately is mini series and limited run shows. So these could be either bonus podcasts within your podcast, or they could be standalone shows. And the whole point of them is to be small and limited and one time only. And some really great examples of this, I've seen like 2 people who are peers in an industry decide to do a limited run podcast. So maybe like 8 or 10 episodes on a super niche topic within their fields of expertise. They come together and do a collaboration. It's like the only project they've ever done together. And it's a standalone show that's only meant to be like 8 episodes long forever. And they'll create, a little website for it, and it has its own artwork and title and feed. Like it's its own show, but it's never meant to be more than just that one limited edition collaboration. These are really exciting to me, whether it exists inside, the feed of a bigger show and you do a little mini series bonus, for a certain concept or maybe a trending topic that everyone in your space wants to know about, or you decide to do a collaboration and do a limited edition show. You could do a limited edition show on your own. You don't even have to have a co-host. There's just like the sky's the limit here, right? I just want you to start thinking differently about how to use your voice and a microphone and these podcast apps in ways that we haven't traditionally, because people are doing such cool shows now that look totally different. Another idea, and we're going to talk about this a lot in a future episode, is private and premium podcasts. So this is kind of like the breakout new frontier for podcasters that want to monetize their shows, is having paid feeds. So people subscribe to your show for a small fee, like $3, $5, $10, a month. And that way you can give them better quality content that's maybe even more focused because it's something they're actually paying for. And you could have that also be like a companion to your paid course or membership, or, if you have a group of clients who all want to hear your lectures or your trainings on audio, you could have a private feed that they subscribe to as part of their membership inside of your paid products. Like, the list goes on and on and on. We're going to talk about those private and premium feeds in another episode. One of the things that I think is really exciting right now that business owners are using, that I'm playing around with my own business right now, is doing like a super mini sized podcast that's private, that's a sales funnel to enroll people into your group coaching program or to come work with you, instead of the traditional old kind of like webinar series with like the 3-part email sequence. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. I'm seeing people starting to do that with a mini private podcast, so that potential customers who are interested in kind of vetting you and figuring out like, do I want to work with this person? they could listen to a custom little private podcast you made. Maybe it's just like 3 or 5 episodes, and that can give them a really good taste of what it's like to work with you, and you can guide them through, the path that you would normally do on like a sales call or a webinar series. So I could go on, but I just want you to start expanding your mind and thinking about using the tool of podcasting totally bigger than long form interviews with cool people. That is still awesome, but it's been done a lot, and it's not most people's forte, and it's expensive and a lot of production. So there are so many alternate ways to use podcasting and YouTube, like Tiff said, that don't involve long-running shows. And having worked on long-running shows, we can tell you that they have an ecosystem of their own that needs to support them. They're incredible, and there's amazing things that come out of those shows, but for most people, that's probably not going to be what makes sense, especially at the beginning. Okay, hopefully we've got the wheels spinning. Anything else we need to add, Tiff, before we send people on their way?
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention, I kind of like thought about while you were talking. If you are going to go the traditional route with interviews, think of, something that your guest may not have done on camera before. If you were just gonna we're gonna record 5 minutes at the end of this, you're a musician. We had one host that we worked with before that liked to play the guitar kind of casually as a hobby, and so sometimes when he would have musicians come on, he would play with them together, for 5 minutes, have them sing something for 3 minutes, 2 minutes, and just use that as a promo for the show. That's a little bit different than them just sitting down, opposite sides of the table at the camera, and being a bit more playful and genuine and having a cool connection. And truly, I think it worked for some people that he didn't know before the show to build a cool connection or to do something fun. Some people don't have time, but if you mention that before people start to come on the show, hey, we love to do 2 minutes of us just playing a guessing game, or something fun that just takes it out of sometimes the seriousness, especially if you might go deep or something on the show, and just make it more of a playful environment. It's just another idea. But Christine and I do this very I want to say meticulously. Does that sound like the right word that I want to use, Christine?
Yeah,
like we want to we
strategically.
customize this strategically. We customize what we do typically for people when they hire us to come into their production to help them with these kinds of concepts. So we love giving these ideas and these concepts away for free because we want to support the community. But if you want to work with us more individually and have more of a one-on-one type of session or clarity call, or this wonderful thing called an incubator that I really think you should click on the show notes and see what that is all about, you have that opportunity to do that with us. So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. We love going over these terms. We love teaching. We love answering any question that you send us on Instagram. But if you're like, man, I'm ready to really start a show, get this going. I want to have audio, video. I want to have the whole thing. I want to get into this incubator with Christine and Tiff. Please click on the show notes to learn more, because that's something that obviously we love this. We talk about it all day, every day, but we want to help more and more shows grow and just do good in the world, just do good things in the world. So thank you again for listening, for watching this show, and we will see you next week on Think Like a Producer. Man, why can't I say this right? Alternative ways to use podcasting and YouTube besides long run shows. It's just a lot to say. I think it's what it is. It's a big title.
We'll find a better title. We'll find
cool.
that.
Thank you so much for watching this episode.
Be sure to check out the episode about the pros and cons of personal brands coming up next.